I want us to take a look at file handling in Python today, and I've actually created a folder for this, but I do not have any file inside of it. First, let's open up this folder with our editor. So I want to click on show more options, and I want to open that with my Python community edition, and that is actually going to open. And once that's open, as you can see, I do not have any file inside of it, but we can go ahead and create a file inside of it right now. So if I hit right click right there, and I'm going to create a Python file, and let's go ahead. Maybe we could just call this something like example, and maybe example one or something of that nature. Let me just call that example one, and I'm going to open that up, and then we do have that right here opened up. And what I want to do first of all, before we go further, I want to give us like the definition of file handling. So let me put something like a comment in here first of all, and the topic is actually going to be file handling. And as far as the definition is actually concerned, let me paste that down here, and I want to like make this, let's shorten this a little bit for readability. All right, so for the definition of that of the file handling, when we talk about file handling, it simply refers to the process of creating, reading, writing, and manipulating files, both text and that of the binary, using Python's built-in file handling system or method right here. And then it actually enables the programs to interact with files stored on the system for data storage, retrieval, and that of its processing. And that's just basically what the definition of a file handling is. And what that simply means is it's basically talking about our ability to be able to read a file, write to a file, append to a file, and then the things of that nature. So what we want to do right now is that we're basically going to look at a few key features that are actually embedded in that of the file handling. And the first one I want to take a look at right here is actually called a read. All right, so I'm going to call that read, and then put that in brackets, and I want to use a, which R right here. Okay, it just basically helps us in opening a file and then read its content. And I want to like give an example down here. All right, so we're going to write a few lines of a code to be able to demonstrate what this is actually going to do for us right here. But for the definition right here, we could just go ahead. Let me just copy and paste the definition in there. So right here, this is the definition of this particular line. So it opens the file for reading, and that's just basically the default for that. And we want to like go ahead and then experiment with that. If we want to do that right now, if we take a look at our directory right here, if we open this up, we have a file that we just created, which we basically named that example one, and this is a Python file. What we want to do right now is that we want to experiment. We want to be able to see how is it that one can actually read within this particular directory that I just showed you right now. We want to see how is it that we can actually read the content of a file in that particular place. And to do that is really very simple. What we want to do right now is that we need to create a file within that particular directory right now. And to do it, if we go back to this environment and I want to go ahead and create a new file, so let's create a text file right here, and maybe we're going to just basically call this text file one, maybe dot right here. So we have just created the file right here, which we basically call the text file one, and then it is basically has a txt extension. That's what we can see in the file type right here. And I want to go ahead and see how is it that we can actually read this file. So to read that, since we are basically dealing with how to actually open the file for reading, we can go ahead and do that right now. So what I want to do, I want to make use of a method that is actually called a with, and we're going to just use another method called a open. And what this is actually going to do is that we're going to be able to try to open the file up for reading. And to do that, what we want to do right now is that I want to reference to the file we just created, which we just basically called a text file, right? So it was actually called a text file, and that's actually showing up right here. So I want to pick that up and then introduce a comma right here. And then the method we want to use right now is actually going to be R, which is just basically meant for reading. And that's just what I did up here, right? So I want to do that right now. And we can just say something as file. And what we're going to do right now is that down here, we want to go ahead and then create a variable. Let's call that content, and we can go ahead and just set that to this particular name that we have just created right here called a file, and this is going to be dot read, which is just basically a method that we can actually use to read files. So if we do that down here, so on the next line we can go ahead and then print whatever content that is on that particular thing in there. All right, so we can go ahead and then say print, and we can just say content right here. All right, and we can go ahead and then save it. However, we do not actually have any content in that particular place, right? So if we try to basically run this right now, we're going to actually get wouldn't be an error, but we're going to just get empty results right here. Okay, but it did actually read just fine. However, we do not actually have any text in that particular place. So if you want to have something there, you can open this up and let's say something like goodbye or welcome to the world, maybe welcome to my world, something of that nature. And if you save the changes in here, and then we go back to our development environment and let's try to run this file again. Of course, I think we need to save the changes in here, and then once we go ahead and hit on run, you see that we'll have a welcome to my world right here. So that's just basically how you can go ahead and then read the content of a file using this particular method right here. I mean, this particular mode right here called the R, okay, which basically going to help you be able to open file up and then read that. So we use the method called the open to be able to open this particular file up, which we'll call the text file 1.txt, and then we're able to use the mode right here to be able to read the content. Just as simple as that. Now, the next thing I want to take a look at is how to write to a file. Now that I've actually learned how to read a file, we can also write to it. So I want to put my number 2 in here, and let's go ahead and paste this, and this is W right here, right? And what this is basically going to do for us is to be able to write to and even overwrite. Okay, so we should be able to open the file up for writing or even overwrite if the file already exists. All right, and to do that is pretty going to be very simple. So we need to just basically change up quite a few things in here and to be able to reflect that. But what I'm going to do right now is I want to extend this comment down here. So let's put that down here, and however I'm going to just copy this content that we have in here and then treat that as a new lines of a code in here. So what I want to do with this is really very simple. I want to be able to write to a file, right? And let's say for instance I want to write something like hello world to that particular file that we have in here. So of course all of these things are actually basically going to stay, but we want to change the mode right here since we want to write. So change that to W, which is actually going to help us be able to write to a file. All right, and then we're trying to write to the same file that we have in here. And then down here we're going to just basically change a few things up right here. Okay, so we do have this variable called a content right here, and we are trying to basically use the method called a read right here. So let's change that to something like write, because we want to write this time around. And basically what do you want to write? You can go ahead and then put whatever you want to write inside of this particular place right here. All right, so let's say something like goodbye world, and let's go ahead and then maybe you can go ahead and then save the changes right here. And then if we run this code right here, remember that what we already got, if we check in here, double click on this, we have a welcome to my world in here. So let's see if that is actually going to change if we run the code. And okay, we do have a 14 right there. And what is that? Basically 14. So let's check right here. If we open this up, and then we'll have a goodbye world. And the reason for that could be, okay, I think that's just basically correct, right? So it's just printing out the number of characters that are actually involved in here. So this is 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14, including the space in here. All right, but then if you check our file in here, you see that it really wrote that it changed what we had here earlier to goodbye world. All right, and if you want to like read the content, you can change up your code right here to be able to read that. All right, so if you change this to something like R, and then you change this one to read, from here you change that to read, let's change that to read right here. And of course we're not going to need this, so take this away. And if we save the changes right here, I believe that this should be able to print out goodbye world down here. See how that is actually working? So that is just that. But what we really need, what I'm going to do, I'm going to return it to what we had just now, like this. Okay, so I want to copy this, I cut that and then put that inside of this particular place. All right, so that's just basically an example to this second line that we have in here. All right, so let's put that in here, and that is just that. So we'll move on to the next thing that we want to basically do, which is basically going to be maybe to learn how we can actually append a file, okay, or append the content to a file. And to do that is really very simple. So let's get the definition of that of the append first of all. All right, so the third one we want to take a look at right here. I'm going to just do this and then paste that, and this is just basically going to be we do have a right here, which stands for append, and then what it does is that it opens the file for appending data. And we're going to experiment with that, but I think this is going to look a lot cooler if we are able to, down here, if we just say example and then paste the example to that within that particular place. And as for that of the right, we can also cut this and I put that just right after this right there. So if we do example and paste that down there. All right, so when we work on this one called append, we're also going to put its example right there just underneath, so just to make things look a little bit clearer. So down here we're basically working on append, right? So what we're going to do with append right here is going to be very simple. So first of all, I'm going to just do with, we'll do open, and we're going to, within our bracket right here, of course we do have a file which we basically call the text file, right? So let's bring the text file right here. Let's make sure I type that correctly. So we have that in there, and And we should not forget that this should just basically be in quote, guys. So this is txt, and we'll have that. We can introduce a comma, and then the next thing, which is basically going to be the mode, is for us to go ahead and then let's do a right here, which it kind of stands for append. And within here, you can just do as, we use it as keyword, and then we can call that file. Remember, you can actually call this whatever, okay, just like a variable. Whatever you call it, that up here is what you can make use of down there. All right, so let's do that. And down here, what I want to do right here is just say, if I say file dot this is going to be right, we're going to use write method in this to be able to append the content to that particular file that we'll have up there. All right, so to append something in there, instead of deleting or try to override what is already there, we just want to write to it. So if you want to put it on a new line, you can do /n right there, and you can go ahead and then write anything you want to write. Let's say appending to this line, and this basically needs to be in quotes, so let's make sure we put that in quotes. So up down here, we're going to just say this is just basically how this should look, right? All right, so we have that in there right now. And what happens is that if we run this code right here, you're going to see that this particular file, which we already got right here, which if we check it right here, open this up, you see that we'll have a goodbye word in here. We're going to have a new line here, right? We're going to basically have a new line in there that's just basically going to have the text that we just added to this particular file right here. So it's going to have appending to this line. Okay, so let's save the changes in here and then try to run the code to see whether that is actually going to work or not. So I'm going to hit on run, and we do not have any errors in here. But then if we go to that particular file, if we open this up, and I want to open this, and you see that we do have appending to this line. All right, so that's just basically how you can actually append to an existing code or an existing file. Okay, so we do have this particular thing in here before now, goodbye word, and then we're appending this line to it. All right, so I hope that is really simple enough for you guys to understand. All right, so let's go ahead and copy this line of code. I want to cut this and then put it just under this place. So I'm going to just do example, just like we've been doing, and paste that. So this just stands for the example of what we got above. All right, so the next one we want to take a look at is going to basically be for, let's say, number 4, and this is going to be for that of the read binary. Okay, so we have a read binary right here. I'm going to copy and paste that. So we have read binary slash write binary right here. Okay, these ones are just basically going to be for us to be able to write binaries and then read binaries. And I want you to know ahead of time that binaries are not actually readable. Okay, so whatever we're going to actually do right here, we may find it difficult to be able to like read and understand what it is. All right, but it's really very important because there are some situations where you have to like use them. Maybe you want to copy some images from a particular place to another place. All right, so it's really very important to be able to know how to do this, because it's going to actually save your life when it comes to things of that nature. So to do this right now, I want to get down here and then be able to write a line of code that is going to basically help us do that. And to do this, or to show an example for this right here, we can go ahead and then do the following. All right, so I want you guys to like understand the fact that each time we're talking about binaries, we're just basically talking about anytime we're talking about this particular mode, okay, read binaries and then write binaries, we're basically referring to non-textual or non-text data. Okay, so this could be something like, I'm going to put in brackets, this is going to be images slash videos. Okay, so we're just basically talking about a multimedia right here. So let me just paste this line of code in here, and what we basically want to do, or what I want to do with this line, is to just basically show you and then prove to you that this is just basically going to be talking about images, okay, or videos. Okay, so I want to take a look at an image right here. So we do have this particular image right here, and then we want to be able to read this particular image to see its output. So what I want to do is, maybe I'm going to actually change this, but let me just copy an image. I'm going to look for an image right now, and maybe we are going to go ahead and make use of this particular image. Let's use this. So I want to copy this and then go back to that directory, which is right here, and I want to paste that. So we do have BG, and this is JPG image right here. So I want to look for a way to read this particular image that we have in here. So it's actually called a BG, right? Switching that to BG. All right, so we have that in there, and what I'm going to do, we've really created a variable right here, and we want to basically read it. So if we read this, it's going to like basically print out the binary data for us, but it's going to be basically unreadable. So let's save the changes right here and then hit in here. You see that it was able to read that. Look at it right here. So it was able to read that, and this is just like a binary. So I couldn't actually explain this anymore any better than this right here. Okay, but just a proof that this can actually read your binary files. For it was an image, you also see it as an image right here. All right, so if you want to write to a binary, you can also do that. You can also do that, guys. So that is just this. So that is just it on this particular line. All right, so let's first of all, I want to just basically cut this off. Now put that in here. This is an example. Put that in there. All right, but then we do have this is like an example 1, but we're going to have something like an example 2 right here, which is just basically going to help us prove how we can actually write. If we want to write a file or be able to save a file as something like a binary, you can also do that. So let's do that right now. All right, so let me paste the code I have right here, and what I'm basically trying to do right now is to be able to write a binary data to a file. All right, and what this is basically going to do for us right here is that I've actually created a variable called a binary, which is actually just using this b right here to just as a prefix to indicate that this is a binary data, right? So this is a binary data that we have in here, and then we can go ahead and then open that up right here, and then the file we want to open right now is actually output_file.bin, and we can go ahead and then kind of write to it, write a binary to it. To do that right here, so if everything works just fine, we're going to just have this particular line called a binary file written successfully. So we're going to go ahead, and I don't know if I really even explained that very well, but just know that if we run this code right here and everything works just fine, this file is actually going to be created for us, right? So, and if it gets created, we should be able to find that within this particular directory right here. As you can see, we do not actually have that right here. So if we go back in here and I want to hit on where it says run, and you see that binary file written successfully, which is basically this particular line getting printed. So it means that if we go back in here, we should be able to see that particular line right here. Look at it. Okay, so that particular thing has been actually it has been created, and if you open that up, I don't think if this is really easy for anyone to actually read. So I don't even know how I can actually open that up. So I wouldn't basically even know where to open that. Let me open that up with Notepad and see. Let's say just once. Okay, it's just really easy to really read anyway. So this is it. So if you want to save any file or any data as binaries, you can actually do that right here. All right, so that is it. So if we go back to our development environment, what I want to do right now is I want to copy this or cut this and then put that as an example 2 right here. So let's say example 2 right here, and then we can go ahead and paste that. And I know that these examples that I'm kind of basically giving may be hard for you to understand what you can ever use that for. So what we want to do right now is let's try to kind of run one example that will look a little bit useful in the real world. All right, so to do that, let's do that down here, and what I'm going to just basically do is let's take a look in here. Let's see a way that we can actually duplicate this particular image within this particular directory. All right, so that's just basically one of the things, our ability to be able to duplicate an image right here from our code. So to do that, if we go back in here, let's do that. I'm going to put, first of all, let's put a comment in here, and let's just say something like a copy or copying. So let's just say something like a copying both RB and WB right here, which means read binary and then write binary to an image. And to do that is really very simple. First of all, I'm going to just use the with keyword right here, and I'm going to just use open method, and then within this particular open method, we can go ahead and then bring in the image right here that we already got, which is jpg right here. So if we want to do that, let's just take this away. So within this particular place, we can actually go ahead and then let's open quotations right here and just do bg, and this is going to be .jpg, which is actually showing up right here already. So we take that first of all. That will be the first thing in there, and the next thing I want to do is to be able to read that particular file right here. So to read it, we're going to do rb right there, and let's just see it on that particular line. But then we can just use our as keyword right here, and we can call this whatever we like. So let's call this something like source file. So we do have that as source file right there. If you put a colon, you can come down here, and then we can create a new variable which we can just basically call binary data. So we do have a binary data as a variable right here, and then we can go ahead and then make use of this particular file or this particular variable that we have in here. All right, so we're going to do source file, and we're going to do .read because we want to read the content in that particular place. Okay, so we do have that in that particular line, and after that, the next thing we basically want to do is to be able to copy the image, this particular image that we have in here, all right, which is currently present in this particular binary file in here. So to do that, we can do that on this line. So within this particular place right here, so let's go ahead and do that. We'll just do with, and then we'll do open again. and let's say we want to give it a name. What name do we want to call this right now? So we call this BG. So let's call this copied underscore BG dot. This is going to be JPG, right? Which is the extension right there. Okay, so we do have that right here, and we can go ahead and introduce a comma in here. So let's introduce a comma, and what we basically want to bring into this particular line right here is actually going to be the right. So this is going to be RW for us to be able to write that, and we can use our as keyword right here, and you can just say something like destination file, that file too. Okay, so we have that in there right now. So the next thing I want to do is to just say, if we do something like destination right here, so let's do destination file, and I'm going to just do dot write because we want to write it, and then within this particular place we can just go ahead and then pass in this binary data right here, because that's just basically the variable that contains the file that we're just basically working on right now. All right, so that's just that on that particular line. We can go ahead, maybe we want to print out something like a message. To that we can actually do something like print, and we can go ahead and do something like, let's say, image copied successfully, something of that nature. Let's say save changes, and then if we run these, okay, we do have an error. I think we need to move this a little bit back, save the changes, and then run that again. I think we still got an error right here, so let's find out why that is actually showing up right there. And then we have a copied. All right, I think I got the message. This shouldn't be RW the way that it is. I think it should be, okay, WB. Yes, I think it should be WB. So if you save the changes, then we'll run again. First of all, let's check in here. Okay, the image was not duplicated, so it should be duplicated if we run the code now. And I hope, let's just run it first of all, and I will have image copied successfully. And if you take a look here, you see where we'll have a copied image right here. All right, so if we go back in here, we should also be able to see that copied image right here. So the same thing, if you open this up, you see that we'll see this background, and if you open this particular one up, just basically the same thing. This is how we're able to like duplicate that. So this is one of the examples you can actually understand more, okay, when it comes to building something with a real life example or real life usage. So that's just that. I hope that you guys kind of capture that, right? All right, so in summary right now, so the image in here is actually read as a binary data using a RB right there, okay, and then the binary data is actually written to a new file using that of the WP. Okay, that's just the summary behind this thing that we have just actually done right here. So the technique I actually here is actually useful for duplicating or backing up a binary files. So in case you ever want to back up a binary files, this is the technique you could use to be able to do that. And I hope that you guys understand this and should be able to replicate it in your own way and then use it to build something useful. So thank you guys for watching, and then I think I will see you guys in the next one. Bye bye for now.